Yeah.
Your lighting is really good. My lighting is not so good, I hope.
Oh, I'm in my little tiny room and I need to get a backdrop for it. Yeah.
Your lighting is really good. My
Okay.
lighting is not so good, I hope.
Oh, I'm in my little tiny room and I need to get a backdrop for it. Okay.
Your lighting is really good. My
Okay.
lighting is not so good, I hope.
Oh, I'm in my. So let me go back to Zoom and record out of there. There's a little bit of a delay uh, in the film. Okay, I'm going to hit record and then we can get started. Um, okay. Hey, welcome, Peter. I'm so glad that you're able to come and come to the call with me today. It's all about creating an impactful legacy, and it's just how are we doing it? And I'm more geared to helping people create the impactful legacy in their workplace. Obviously, kindness is my thing, but there's so many other ways in which we can do that, right? And so, welcome to the show, Peter, and welcome anybody
Good.
else who's listening to the call. So, Peter, do you want to share how you got started with what you're doing now? And um, yeah, just tell us
Yeah,
a little bit about yourself and how you got started doing what you're doing.
I'll tell you a little bit about my story. Happy to. As I mentioned to you before, I'm a native California. I was born in San Francisco, and I lived in Los Angeles for 12 years. Lived most of my life in the Bay Area, but
Mm-hmm.
also spent some time in my childhood in the southeast
Mm-hmm.
part of the United States. Um, yeah, I connected with the Bay Area through my engineering work, and because I worked for 20 years as an engineer
Okay.
before I got to this point in life when I said I want to do something else, completely different, really
Mm-hmm.
completely different. Like I want to produce music, I want to
Mm-hmm.
travel the world, and so some of those things are all the inspirations that led me back to San Francisco to get a master's degree in integrative health at the California Institute of Integral Studies.
Okay.
And that's also where I got my coaching certificate.
Mm-hmm.
And I do work as a coach now in
Mm-hmm.
Berlin, Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, but it was through my passion and interest for creating um, not only self-managing teams,
Mm-hmm.
but really sustainable work cultures.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the subject of my master's thesis
Oh,
in San
interesting.
Francisco at CIIS,
Mm-hmm.
was on workforce well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of the reason for that is there is a problem with stress in the workplace. There's a
Mm-hmm.
problem with burnout in general. There's
Mm-hmm.
a problem with the science and understanding of the workplace has advanced even a lot since I've left the university.
Right.
But I was interested in solving the problem more from the perspective of how we manage public health. Like
Mm-hmm.
here's a population. How do we reduce the incidence of like people calling out sick,
Yeah.
people feeling so stressed?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the way that I decided to do that was about focusing on relationships, creating high quality relationships,
Mm-hmm.
creating that actually when we connect as human beings positively,
Mm-hmm.
then we're activating a lot of chemicals and hormones and things in our bloodstream and in our system in our that actually strengthen the immune system, make us
Right.
stronger, not
Mm-hmm.
only happier but actually are creating healthy bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Kind of your journey.
that's a big part of my kind of my journey, kind of my story. And
Yeah.
the other piece now is I'm also a writer. And actually, just before I joined this call, I was doing a reading from my forthcoming book. It's coming out next year. It's not so much about the workplace. It's more of a
Hmm.
personal. It's more about my personal journey. So I think that's Mari-Lyn. That's probably one of the reasons that I'm
Right.
pretty
Right.
well versed in telling my story.
Well, our stories are so important because they tell us a lot about who we are as an individual. And, if we know each of our background a little bit, or like you were saying, it's the connection, it's about having that relationship with people that we get to know each other better. And the less stress usually happens, of course, when we're at work, because we spend a lot of time there. I mean, I understand right now most people are doing remote work, but I'm working outside my own field right now, but I'm not um, working in my field per se right now. But it's interesting that if you don't have good relationships with your coworkers, then, or if someone, if there's already a negative culture there, it makes it very challenging. So, like you're saying, it's like if we could solve that problem, we are healthier as well, and our health benefits as well, right?
So yeah, like I really focus a lot on leadership. I mean, as a coach, I'm a leadership development coach. That's what
Hmm.
I've been doing for the past 7 years.
Hmm.
But I really think of leadership not in terms of like the executives. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of executive coaching is
Hmm.
focused on executives, people that have responsible for leading many people. But
Hmm.
what my coaching is for everybody, it's about
Hmm.
self leadership.
Right. Right.
And so I've had the good fortune of actually working for companies that understand this message, that understand that if we start developing our people to learn how they can grow and evolve, then they're
Hmm.
going to be more adaptable in the workplace, more adaptable to change, especially
Hmm.
like in a startup environment that we need to pivot, there's a lot of chaos in the startup world, and
Hmm.
it is stressful. And personal coaching, more and more I see, it's
Yeah.
really remarkable the how much it's growing in the past 2 years,
Yeah.
that companies really accepting the fact that like personal one-on-one coaching is a worthwhile investment. And so
Hmm.
yeah, I've been working in deals specifically doing coaching with inside organizations,
Hmm.
so people get the kind of the personal and very personal attention for their growth and development.
Yeah. I would see that as just being of service to the person that you're serving. Like you're saying, it's a very personalized service for that individual that may be
Hmm.
struggling or not struggling, right? Yeah. So what do you think some of the biggest obstacles right now that are happening that for the clients that you work with? And share a little bit about that if there's any difference there in Europe versus maybe North America. I don't know.
Yeah, I get this question a lot, and one might think that like the influence of the pandemic is the thing that is stressing people out, and it is indirectly
Hmm.
because the pandemic has changed the business environment.
Hmm.
And so businesses are can't be as certain about the growth of the company, or like what the market is doing.
Hmm.
And but it's the indirect influence. I mean, it causes maybe more stress inside the organization, but the things that people are coming to me with
Hmm.
are still very kind of personal things. How do I balance my personal life with my work life?
Hmm.
How do I manage my reactions to, certain types of people at work? And
Hmm.
these kinds of things seem to be like they're always happening, and there's a diversity of things that are causing discomfort,
Hmm.
with people in the work environment.
Hmm.
My manager doesn't understand what I really need and want.
Right.
um, this person over here is really um, out of bounds, like being really disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like have certain resources or tools or that they know that like this is the way that I deal with it.
Right.
Either like I get revenge or I don't say anything or
Mm-hmm.
but in this leadership development, it's more about being able to help a person kind of expand, see different perspectives, a more empowering
Mm-hmm.
perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to have permission to say like what the difficulty is,
Mm-hmm.
because otherwise outside the coaching relationship there's a cultural norm that says there's just certain things we don't talk about.
Yeah.
um, just deal with it. So it's really a way of um, coaching. On one-on-one coaching is really great for people to get the attention and care
Yeah.
that they need to grow and evolve and stand in their power.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also really interested in doing the team and organizational work, and I know that's something that you seem to be really
Yeah. Well,
passionate about. It's like how do we create
uh,
a kind workplace?
yeah. Well, it's challenging, of course, because like you were saying, you have different personalities and you have to deal with them, and you also have to take the time to understand where they're coming from. So, like you were saying, it's individual coaching with that one person or offering support, or like, how can I support you? And what is it that you need that we can help you with, so you can grow and be a better person within our community, our work. Um, but then there's my personal thing is more about mental health and wellness because I believe, just like you were saying earlier, is that it's really about looking after ourselves first, and then we
Mhm.
become a more effective person, right? And
Yes.
so I'm a personality that likes to give, and some people are offended by that, and some people don't know what to do with it. And so I have to guide myself and say, okay, I just usually ask the question, please tell me, if I've gone too far or if I've, given too much or said too much or whatever, so that it can help me grow with you, right? But sometimes people aren't willing to say anything either. So, because they don't want to offend or whatever. I don't know what the situation is. But anyway, like you were saying, is just like the when you get a bunch of individuals together in a group, you now have all these personalities, right? And you have
Mhm.
to find some sort of commonality so that you can all work together, right? Yeah, I'm sure, you know.
Yeah, and I've worked with groups, inside and outside of a work context. And here again, there's the situation is different, but kind of the dynamics are very, very
Mhm.
similar.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about groups that are doing service work, nonprofit work,
Mm-hmm.
groups that are doing spiritual work,
Mm-hmm.
groups that are like working together in a startup. I mean, this is what I love about my work is that it's really just focused on having a better understanding of who we are as human beings and the patterns and behaviors that we play out again and again and again. And like, how can you help? How can I help
Yeah.
people kind of just have more transparency into like the things that we do
Mm-hmm.
that like, first of all, may not be empowering somebody else, but it's not empowering me either. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to sit over here and suffer and fume and feel resentful. Like, that's not fun.
Yeah.
So it's, and one of the things you said is like in a group dynamic, feeling shy or feeling like I can't say, I don't have permission to say something.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I've done is, I mean, this is actually not unique because
Yeah.
every good facilitator is going to start by opening a circle and
Mm.
getting everybody in. Um, and in a workplace or in a team, it's also trying to recreate the culture, change the cultural norm that this is a place where everybody has everybody has a voice,
Mm-hmm.
because it's really trying to disrupt the patterns that like some people do all the talking, some
Yeah.
people just listen, Some people are over it, other ones are really passionate. It's like once we get all the voices in and
Mm-hmm.
not have it, not doesn't need to be judged
Mm-hmm.
as like, doesn't have to be that way, and that you're in, you're out, you're important, you're not important.
Mm-hmm.
It really requires to do a number of facilitation exercises, whether it's a check-in or once another thing that I like to do is group storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Like we all see the world. If we're all gathered in this place now, it's just you and me. But if there were six of us gathered in this virtual space, we would be kind of seeing that space in very unique ways.
Mm-hmm.
So why not just kind of play a game with that and let's tell the collective story of what we all see?
Mm-hmm.
And isn't it interesting just by compiling those pieces of the story to see like, wow, there's another perspective that's even possible here. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have to agree with it, but wow, there's another perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I call that we agree to disagree. But yeah, I totally get what you're
Yeah.
saying. So can you give us a story a little bit about maybe a challenging client you had and how you overcame it, or how you yeah, just some little way of how you resolved um, a, s- um, a difficult situation.
Like in a coaching relationship or
Any
in
way you
a
want to, whatever you want
client
to share,
relation,
whatever your best stories.
overcoming a difficult my best story of overcoming a difficult situation.
Yeah.
Good to have this story like lined up.
Or it can be a workplace or be client or whatever, something challenging that you experienced with someone and how you actually got them to turn around, maybe, or something. I don't know.
Well, there's a couple of different stories
Mm-hmm.
come to mind,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess one of them has to do with me, like how I shifted my perspective,
Mm-hmm.
which has to do more with coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe there's room for more than one story. I don't know. I guess,
Yeah.
but um, there is one story that comes to mind, which I think, like working with a client, it's just related to what I was
Mm-hmm.
talking about before. Working with a client that just has a big personality, and big personalities tend to be um, domineering, and we have all kinds of words for that,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes in this kind of situation, it made me feel bad, it made me feel angry, it made me basically like this whole thing about, okay, now I'm pissed off. And like the work for me was to like, how do I reestablish trust in this relationship when I feel so personally assaulted or insulted?
Mm-hmm.
And this is some of the deeper work that I do. So I'm going into very personal stories, my personal stories,
Mm-hmm.
um, because as a coach, I'm always needing to grow and evolve, and to know myself better.
Mm-hmm.
And when I do that, I can help other people, see their trigger
Mm-hmm.
points and their spots where you can't see outside the anger and the upset.
Mm-hmm.
And one of this, in my own process was like, where has this happened before?
Mm-hmm.
And overcoming, a difficult situation with a client, it seems like it's all happening in this little scenario.
Mm-hmm.
On one level, they said this, I said this, like how are we going to resolve this conflict? But
Mm-hmm.
in kind of the deeper work that I do for myself and also with clients is to see, when has this happened before? When
Mm-hmm.
have I actually felt this level of anger before? What
Mm-hmm.
happened then? What's being activated in me
Mm-hmm.
that my system that I can't process it. I can't really deal with it powerfully. I'm no longer present. I'm no longer standing in a place where I can meet the other powerfully in relationship.
Right.
And this is the work. How do I get to be present again in the relationship. I mean,
Mhm.
it's hard work to see the difference between kind of the immediacy of the conflict
Mhm.
to more of an expanded place. I see myself in this conflict.
Mhm.
Who am I being in this conflict?
Mhm.
When has this happened before?
Mhm.
But when I do that, I can actually have some compassion and love for my not only myself,
Mhm.
but for kind of the relationship that I'm in.
Mhm.
And so, in overcoming difficult situations, this is what I do for myself, and I also um, tend to talk about with my clients as well. Like,
Mhm.
how can you practice first radical self love and self compassion for yourself? Like, it's okay
Mhm.
that you're upset and that you're sad and that like this is a part of you,
Mhm.
but it's often difficult to like to just accept the responsibility that I have something to do with this problem.
Yeah.
um, so I don't know if that's kind of like what you were thinking in terms of a response, but I think it does talk about the level at which which I like to coach and help people and teams and organizations, is to
Mhm.
say that there is what's happening at the surface level,
Mhm.
and like maybe one form of coaching is just like strategies to kind of handle the
Mhm.
battles.
Right.
But I think the deeper work in coaching
Mhm.
is seeing what's underneath the surface and
Right.
seeing that the patterns of behavior are not new, and you're not unique to this particular situation. And
Right.
we begin to see like repeated patterns that I do personally, that you do personally, and like,
Mhm.
and the work is like, how do I learn to love and respect that?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because as you're feel, saying, it's just like, okay, yeah, I always do try to self-reflect as well, but sometimes, we get in our own way, right? Because we don't quite see it. So we need the third person to say, hey, you said this, or, whatever kind of thing. So sometimes it's always
Yeah,
nice to have the third person, like you're saying, a coach to help you guide you through the process of saying, okay, well, have you thought about this angle? Have you thought about that? Kind of opening up the channels, if you will, like you say, to get to the compassion and empathy of someone else other than yourself, kind of,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So do you have a story then about, uh, you talked a little bit how you like to work with clients and things. Can you share a great story or a successful story of how you helped a client go from A to B or wherever the distance was and the result that came out of it?
Yeah, and I realize that we don't have that much time left, but
Yeah.
there is something that happened recently, which I just really have so much appreciation for the effort, that people on a path of growth continue to invest in their own
Mm-hmm.
development. And what I've been noticing that's such a powerful place
Mm-hmm.
is around boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because when this particular coachee comes to me and shares about lack of motivation,
Mm-hmm.
like why do I even bother with this anymore? Um, Not really feeling like they want to, they can trust their coworkers or something like this.
Mm-hmm.
And when we started working around the issues of boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
like, do you know what your yes is? Do you know what your no is?
Mm-hmm.
Can you but that's a process of like giving somebody this perspective, like, oh, I have a place in myself where I know what yes is and I know what no is. Because if the conditioning is just like, ah, just let it go, oh, no problem, no, and then like wondering, well, why is this person piss me off so much? Well, because there's a lot of resentment there, because they're crossing your boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, to put it succinctly, the reward is through this process,
Mm-hmm.
somebody discovering what their boundaries are, and
Right.
then actually practicing,
Right.
like, oh, this is over the line, and I'm going to say it, and I'm
Yeah.
going to say it. That's what the line is.
Yeah. Yeah.
The reward in that is seeing the reaction of the person who is now transformed because they experience their own power, and they feel joy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, that's a new possibility for
Mm-hmm.
me, to just be really aware and set boundaries.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, but I think, the satisfying part is really seeing the joy in the expression, and just like a transformed person. It's like really, you can see it in body language, really feeling, we like, oh, I'm in my body, I'm in my power, I think I can do this again.
Yeah.
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 So that's
Yeah.
yeah. And I've been watching, I love Brene Brown,
Yeah.
and there's always like an inspired, talk to watch by
Yeah.
Brene Brown. But one of the ones that I watched recently, she talks about boundaries, and clear boundaries being like one
Mm-hmm.
of the foundations of trust.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like when we're not powerful with the boundaries, like, if I don't tell you what my boundary is, well, if you've crossed it, then actually you don't know who I am.
Yeah.
But if I'm more transparent about what my boundaries are, then oh, I know who you are. Now I can. That adds to the trust,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
it's also tied up in respect.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
respect my boundaries, and
I think that's
actually
really
I've had a
good.
lot of conversations
Yeah.
recently about, in the context of the pandemic, because everybody has different boundaries around what's safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everywhere in life now requires us to grow up a little bit about, yeah, you see this differently than me, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe it takes a little bit more effort in negotiating a part of our friendships that we didn't have to address before, because this is actually really like a
Yeah.
life safety and health situation,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to respect each other's beliefs and differences around this pandemic time.
Right. Right. I think this conversation about respect and boundaries needs more time. But I know we're running out of time because you have to run. But anyway, maybe Peter, you could just, for in closing, you could just kind of maybe let people know how they can reach out to you if they want to work with you or have more deeper conversations of what we've discussed already.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a website, peterwolff.com. Maybe put that
Yeah.
link somewhere. And as I mentioned before, like, storytelling is something is a tool that I use reliably. So I created a small website called vocalize.us,
Hmm.
just to talk a little bit about that. And I'm also on Twitter, Peter Wolff, what's it? Peter Wolff SF,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
yeah, LinkedIn as well. But yeah, peterwolff.com, all my information is on
Mhm.
there if you want to get in touch with me. And so,
Great.
um, yeah,
Yeah. Now you'll be on your own page on podcast.heartatworkonline.org. You'll be there. Plus, so people can visit you there and read your bio and reach out to you there as well. And of course, we're on YouTube now live. So,
super.
and hopefully somebody might reach out to you there as well. But anyway,
Thank you so
thank
much.
you so well, Peter, for joining me today and talking about this really important subject. I think that more conversations need to be talked about because I think those kind of situations seem to have more popped up, since the pandemic than ever before. And
Yeah.
so not that they weren't there before, but that we just never really talked about them that much. You know, we don't want to
Yeah.
talk about them.
We don't want to talk about what's uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, for sure. Some people don't. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Peter. And you have a great day and happy holidays and to you and yours. And um, may you all be well as well. Thank
Same
you,
to you.
everybody.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. And of course, my line to end is be kind to each other, be kind to yourself, because that's all we have. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.